Hey everyone, welcome to Cutting Through the Noise. And this week we're talking about email marketing, specifically automation. I'm here with Sean.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome. All right, tell me about email automation is, Sean.
Yeah, so email automation is a tool that is really effective, but it's something that 50% of marketers aren't using, which is why we're going to define it and talk about why it works and then give some examples.
That's surprising because I feel like I get a lot of automated emails.
Well, automated emails are the best when people don't think they're automated. That's kind of the trick. But so automated emails, sometimes people call them drip campaigns. We're not going to refer to them as drip campaigns because that just sounds gross. So they're just going to be automated emails. But it's a series or sequence of emails that go out to people based on behavior, based on action. Anything that they've done when they've signed up, things like that you can set up, and then they go out, routinely. And everybody knows with newsletters, email marketing, you say, okay, I'm going to send out a newsletter about a new product every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go in, you make that email, you do all that kind of stuff. With automated emails, it may send one email one day, it may send 20 emails the next. It depends on the customer behavior. So, in a quick example, the most common is welcome email automations.
Right.
So you sign up for an email because it's an offer or because you want to learn more. You'll immediately get that email. So let's say you're an e-commerce company and you're selling dolls, and somebody signs up and they offer you 10%.
Mm-hmm.
You get the first welcome email, you get that 10% code. Pretty straightforward. Now, the problem that most marketers run into is they stop there.
Sure.
Because there should be a series of around 3 or 4 more emails to continue to nurture that new subscriber. They say that about 75% of people who sign up for something aren't yet ready to buy, and so that's why you have to nurture
It's a
them.
high number, yeah.
Well, it's easy to put your email address in. It's a little harder to put your credit card number in.
Right.
So, so automation emails can go from here's your code to a week later, hey, you haven't used your code. Is there anything we can help you with?
Mm-hmm.
Things along those lines. It has to be in the voice of the company. It has to be like an email that you would write.
Yeah.
But it goes in there and it runs and kind of spits out the analytics.
Mm-hmm. So what are some customer behaviors that you can use to automate emails?
Well, you can use pretty much anything as long as you're pulling the data into your email provider. Kind of sticking with e-commerce for a second, just because that does tend to be kind of the most effective.
Yeah.
Just because there's a very specific conversion that you're aiming for. But you can do it based on when somebody signs up. Like I said, the welcome email. You can send them a coupon on their birthday if you have that data.
I love those.
Actually, the most effective is sending a birthday month.
Oh, yeah.
And just make sure you do it on the first of the day, not later in the month. But that's a really effective one.
Yeah.
You can do it on behavior in terms of what people have done with emails.
Mm-hmm.
So you can create an automation where if somebody hasn't opened an email in 10 days, that they're going to get a different kind of campaign than somebody who is opening. Purchase behavior is a big one, especially on e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
One that I'm actually anxious to try is anniversary emails. So an email goes out on the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year anniversary of their first purchase.
Oh, yeah.
Being like, hey, remember when you bought X?
Yeah. You're still here.
You're still here, so here's a coupon.
That's awesome.
So it can be, I like to do a lapsed customer automation that just sets up that anytime somebody hasn't purchased in 90 days, then they get an email.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it's engaging current subscribers. Sometimes it's trying to wake up dormant ones.
Yeah. How do you think someone would decide how often they should send an automated email or how often it should be set up to send?
I think you really have to study sort of the analytics based on what you've been doing email-wise and kind of look at, okay, so if you're sending weekly emails, what are the open rates? And by the end of the month, do they wane? And sort of look at the ebb and flow.
Yeah.
But I always like to think about it as a consumer. So if I'm signing up for something, I'm obviously interested.
Right.
And, do I want to get an email right away and then one the next day and the next day? Probably not.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on the urgency of your messaging.
Right, definitely. Or maybe how often the consumer buys the product if we're
Right.
talking e-commerce. So other than e-commerce, what are some examples of people that could use automations?
Automations work in terms of long sales cycles,
Yeah.
in terms of, whether you're an economic development firm or maybe a university,
Mm-hmm.
or, when you're looking to have somebody sign up for something that takes a while to decide on,
Yeah.
is a great automation because you can set it to go over the course of 9 months.
Mm-hmm. And it slowly reminds them
Right.
over and
it
over.
keeps top of mind, as opposed to, the one and done, like let's just go and sell something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the longer sales cycles really kind of benefit from automation because also it's something you set up and then you don't have to worry about going in and saying, oh, I want to email this person.
Yeah.
It's the same with B2B. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
automations really work well, wherever your CRM is, especially in HubSpot. Reset it up just so it's kind of sending out emails, reminding them that you're available, let them know
Mm-hmm.
if you want to talk, as opposed to just going in and hitting send manually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true. So some of our experience with automated emails, it seems like, we do get those really basic ones going like super well. When they sign up, they get a code. It's used quite often. Maybe when they leave items in their cart, and we send them an email to remind them to come back. And I know you mentioned earlier one way that we could jump into more automated emails is with the anniversary email. What are some other maybe new or interesting ways to try to automate an email?
I'm a big proponent of anything that's event-based.
Yeah.
Just in terms of whether, like you said, it's the anniversary or birthday,
Mm-hmm.
or, set up an automated email to send on first Friday of every month, or holidays, things like that.
Yeah.
Just because, you're providing content.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the other key piece of it. It can't just be all buy emails,
Mm-hmm.
because you could, if that was that easy, we wouldn't even be
Right.
talking. But, there's this whole thing about, educating and engaging your audience.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes in automation, maybe the third one, you're just sharing a relevant article.
Right.
Or here's 3 things you didn't know about higher education.
Mm-hmm.
Or, anything along those lines. Or, if it's a regional thing, it's like, oh, here's 10 things to do in the summer in your area.
Right.
And just kind of do that kind of subtle push. And,
Mm-hmm.
some of the automations we run, even if it's e-commerce, don't even mention a sale item.
Right.
Sometimes deep into it. So it's just kind of important to mix up the messaging.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes just seeing the company name pop up in an inbox is enough to remind people over and over anyway.
When you just kind of went in and did an audit of kind of all the automations we've been running for clients and internally, what were some of the things that you noticed or found interesting?
So I just took over the email automations not too long ago, a couple months. So jumping in and kind of doing an audit was really interesting. Like I said, I realized that we were really good with those very obvious ones, and there are some ways we could expand to continue showing up in their inboxes. I also noticed that when you set something to be automatic, you can kind of forget to go in and update it maybe. So whether that's images of new product or different language you want to use, new blog posts you want to promote, even when it's automated, I think it's important to go back in and make sure the content you're sending is relevant. I think those are the biggest things I noticed.
Well, the good thing too is you want to make sure it's relevant, but using evergreen content.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It's okay if you forget because, the people are only seeing it once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
yeah, they're getting that one
Right.
welcome email. And
yeah, but if you're pushing products, you definitely want to go in and update new products.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're, you have evergreen type stuff, I kind of like to think about it seasonally.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Yeah, quarterly or
Yeah,
seasonally. Yeah.
Exactly. I think the big takeaway is automation just has proven to really work.
Mm-hmm.
Epsilon email marketing has said that open rates are on average higher by 71% on automated emails.
Wow.
Rather than just kind of the standard blast, and the click-through rate is higher by 152%. So
Wow, those are big numbers.
yeah, those are not sort of insignificant. And from a conversion standpoint, eMarketer did a research study and said that they saw a 50% increase in conversions.
Wow.
Whether that's filling out an additional form or,
Yeah.
not just buying something, but just straight revenue.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of said that revenue increases by about 18 times
Wow.
via automated campaigns rather
Yeah.
than just kind of one-off blasts.
Yeah, those are big numbers. That's crazy. So what do you think causes the difference in open rate specifically? That's what I'm interested in.
I think it's because it's the right message to the right person at the right time.
Events, kind of like you said. Yeah.
It's, you just see an email in your inbox every day or, every Friday, but it's the subject line is directly relevant to
Right. What they just did.
what they did or what
Yeah.
the day is, or, oh, hey, it's, been a year since the last time you bought something. That's kind of cool.
Right.
And it just kind of catches your eye that way. And, the thing I love about email marketing is, once you can get people into the email, you're accomplishing a lot.
Right.
They're seeing content, it's branding, people are clicking through, even if they're not, they're still engaging.
Right.
With the content. And just because they don't click on a link but read the email doesn't mean that you've lost them. If somebody sees an ad on Google and they read it but don't click on it, that they're probably not going to remember that. But you read an email and you read enough emails and then it's like, oh, I need a new doll, then you're going to go to the doll website. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
So what do you think is the best program to use when you're doing automated emails?
I mean, we use, MailChimp primarily just because it's easy. It's setting up the automations. It's very intuitive. It kind of takes you through step by step. But it depends on your type of business. I mean, HubSpot, obviously from a B2B standpoint, is great just because it gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more power to, track things and store data. But MailChimp kind of is right in the middle there between something like MailerLite, which is very basic automation capabilities, and HubSpot, or Salesforce, which are obviously behemoths and not something for the kind of B2C marketer.
Yeah. So do you think that automations are something a brand new business should jump into, or is it kind of something they should do down the line?
I think setting up automations day one is really important.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you don't set it up, even if you're just gaining 1 subscriber, 2 subscribers a week, it's still worth it, because down the road, if you start it, it's going to work. And then you're going to be like, well, I have 10,000 people that weren't in my automation, and it'll make you feel sad. So I think kind of starting it, at the very least, a welcome email.
Yeah.
Even if it's just 1 or 2, that's
better than nothing.
That's 50%. Marketers don't even have a welcome email. So
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I think that another good thing about automations as you start a business, if you're a business owner, is it's something you can do and then it works for you. You know, you don't have to keep doing it, which when you're busy starting a business or starting a marketing campaign, that can be very helpful.
Well, I think the other thing, people kind of don't do automations because they find it robotic and that it's transparent to the customer, that it's not personal. But just because it is done by a robot doesn't mean it has to be robotic. And so just like any email, the messaging, the tone, the imagery, all that kind of stuff matters. So you can't be too focused on coming up with the logic and if then this person gets this or they get that. Like, you need to do that and you need to whiteboard it out, but you also have to spend as much time on the messaging and imagery as you would if you were just sending a one-off newsletter.
Another important thing to remember is that when you are sending automations, it doesn't mean you stop with more personal contact either. So it's kind of an addition.
Yeah, it's an additional way to nurture.
Yeah.
And that's the key. And, aside from automation too, is the personalization ability in email. When you have that information, adding the personalization to the automation also increases open rates and click-through rates and things like that.
What do you mean by that? By like their customer behavior and their kind of profiles?
Or putting their name in the subject line.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Or, having their name in the body, things like that. Just tends to help.
Yeah.
You're just kind of more likely to click on something like that.
Yeah, I know I am personally, if it says my name, so.
I just click on it because I want to know how they know my name.
Right. That's funny. Cool. What else, Sean?
What kind of automations from brands that you follow do you enjoy?
I received an interesting one the other day, a brand that I subscribed to. I subscribed actually because I was hoping for a coupon, and I didn't get one, and I didn't get one for a long time. And then I think it was like the 3rd or 4th email that I finally got a coupon, which was really interesting that they didn't send it just right away. So I'd be interested to see their numbers on the back end, how people are opening, and maybe people are purchasing from the first email or second or third before they get the coupon code. So that was an interesting one from my side. However, yesterday I had to unsubscribe from one because I got like 4 emails in one day, and I don't know if which ones of them were automated, I guess, or maybe they were just really eager with their newsletters, but yeah.
Well, and that's actually brings up a side point. Is the nice thing with automation too, especially MailChimp, is you can set it to, it'll send the automations except on a certain day. So if your newsletter only goes out on Fridays, you should probably set your automations to not go out on Fridays,
right,
unless it's a anniversary. But when you're doing sort of longer campaigns, you want to make sure they're not getting 2 or 70 emails from you in one day. I shared this with you earlier, but I saw a Facebook ad, clicked on it, signed up for a brand I had never heard of,
right?
Just to kind of get a coupon, half because the stuff interested me and half because I wanted to see what they were doing.
Yeah.
And, I got the coupon code right away. That was great. I went to the website and added some stuff to my cart and then kind of moved on with my life for a little bit. And 2 days later, I got the reminder that you need to use the coupon, which kind of was off-putting a little bit because it had no expiration date. It wasn't like it was a short-term campaign. It was use this whenever.
Yeah.
And maybe I just wasn't ready yet.
Right.
Or maybe
you went on vacation.
Maybe I just, unplugged or lost my credit card or went on a silent retreat, something. So I think the cadence is really important. And, you asked about how often. I think it just depends on what your message is. When you're trying to sell something, doing it more frequently sometimes can be a detriment.
Sure.
Unless it's a short window promotion. I think when you're offering content and giving things that are valuable to the consumer, the frequency can increase.
So something that interests me is the time of day that you're sending these out, whether that's morning or night, or also how immediately they go out. So I sign up on a welcome email. Do I prefer, or does the consumer prefer to get an email right away with that coupon or welcoming them to the group, I guess, or is, the next day during business hours so it looks like a person might have sent it? What are your thoughts?
I think if it's a coupon, you want it to be immediate because you're signing up for that. I think if you're signing up for something to request more information from a human, I think the next day or an hour or something like that, if you can personalize it, makes sense. It's pretty obvious when an email is from an email system and when it's from a person.
You get it right when you click enter also.
I don't, when I'm just emailing somebody personally, I don't tend to add an unsubscribe line at the bottom. Right. But I think when it is requesting information and it's going to be a longer sort of nurturing relationship, I think delaying it is always a good idea. But when you're looking for somebody to click buy, do something immediate, then getting out right away is
right. And I guess most people are used to receiving those types of automations, so it doesn't seem, freaky as much to people anymore.
You kind of know that there's not somebody on the other end being like, oh, Sean just asked for a coupon.
Yeah. That's true.
And actually, I signed up for one time, and the coupon code didn't come for an hour, and I immediately unsubscribed because that annoyed me.
Yeah, because you wanted to buy something.
You lost me. When you talk about attention spans, you have to grab people when they're engaged.
Yeah.
Once they get in the funnel, you can't let them crawl out or they're lost forever.
Yeah, that's kind of dark. My gosh. Well, we also have a video, another video, if you're watching this on video. We have a second one on email and also an article. So.
And I think we have another podcast out there too.
We're all about email here.
So
email us.
I think email is just really powerful. I'm just a really strong believer in it. And I think because it has so many possibilities, and I think one of the ones that gets left out, which is why we wanted to talk about it, was automation. It's just really powerful, and it's just a way to really engage with people.
Yeah, and especially when not very many people are doing it, you can get a step up if you...
And people worry that, people are just going to unsubscribe. If I send them too many emails, well, if they're going to unsubscribe, then they're not qualified anyway.
Right, they'll unsubscribe when you send them a personal one, too, later on. Yeah.
Right. So, people, or if they're not going to open it, well, fine. But the people that you do grab and convert. It's just going to happen at a higher percentage when you're dealing with automation.
Okay, well, I think that was great. Let us know if you have any questions about email automation.
Thank
Thanks.
you.